Hello, welcome back to 5MoreMins003. This is Andrew.
This is Danny.
We talking about China skateboarding stories in English.
And we have a wonderful special guest today. Would you like to introduce our guest?
Let me introduce Erik Ellington.
Hello.
Wow.
Nice to be here.
I still can't believe Erik Ellington sitting in my office. I'm like, you know what? I still have one crew, your signature model jeans.
Nice.
I was saying you should have worn them today.
Bring them back.
I'm getting fat because
They were a bit baggier back then. Actually, wait. Were they the? There were some that were really slim. Were they the? I think mine were kind of
not
medium.
really
No,
slim.
not super
I really
slim.
don't see it's really slim. Yours is
Medium.
Yeah, medium.
It might still fit.
Okay, so thanks Li-Ning
Yep.
bringing you here in Shanghai.
Yes, sir. Thank
I
you,
know
Li-Ning.
this is your third stop in China, the fourth stop in China, Hong Kong, Beijing, and Zhengzhou, right?
Yeah, we spent 2 days in Hong Kong, met up with Lee Hawk and the crew out there, Kit, and then went to Beijing for 4 days, and Zhangzhou for 2, and now here for 4 days, I think. I take off on Saturday.
Have you been to China before in general? I know.
Yes and no. I've only been here for development, so I really like the majority of times, and I've probably been out maybe 4 times in the past. I was in Hong Kong on a super trip in 2012, so I actually got to spend some time in Hong Kong. But then the other 2 times that I came to China, I was here for super development, for shoe development, so I didn't get to actually spend any time. I've been in Shanghai, but I can't really say that I have.
Gotcha.
Because I didn't. I think I was here for probably 3 days. 2 of those days were spent at the factory, and
Just quick trips in and out.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So this has actually been. I did go to Beijing in 2019 in December.
Yeah, I remember at that time you went there for Li-Ning some fashion show, right? Yeah, you post some photos, I remember.
We actually did. They invited me out. We met at Complex Con in LA, and then some of the team invited me to come to Beijing. Came out, and we started sort of working on a little bit of development, and then we started working on the potential for us working together. And then I met the team in Paris for Men's Fashion Week 2020 in January, and then right after that, COVID hit. And then we all kept in contact, and everything got postponed until about June of 2020. Then we started picking back up. So I've been working remotely with the design team and with everybody for 3 years now. And so this was actually the first trip that I got to go back there and work in person with the designers, meet the team, meet the people I'd been having these conversations with over the last 3 years in person. And it was great.
Wow, exciting.
It was exciting.
I bet.
Yeah.
Just seeing it all come together.
Yeah, because the first time there, it was kind of this, I don't know, this imagination of what could happen, in the scenario, working together, and then it actually happening, but then never really being face to face and experiencing that whole process, because 3 years is a long time, and working together for that long. And then with the language barrier and a few things, it made it a bit of a challenge. But Lee Hog's been extremely helpful through the process. So it's been and there's been a little bit of the translation has been helped a little bit, but there's nothing that compares to like face to face interaction, and especially when you're designing product and things like that. When somebody gets a vibe and you start to understand each other in the process of it. So yeah, it was really good for me. And I think it was mutually good.
I mean, designing product is so tough. It's not like a T-shirt or maybe something simpler. Shoe is so intricate. I looked at your shoe and I was like, oh my God, this thing's got everything.
Yeah. And it's also, like I know certain things about design, from where I'm at and my standpoint on that and my experiences of, being an American and living in America the majority of my life and traveling abroad and all that. And it can be kind of specific within skateboarding. The things that I'm learning is who the customer is and exactly what their interests are, and being able to somewhat inform that by my experience. The role of mine is not to just go in and start designing a bunch of stuff. It's almost to like adapt to it a little bit, understand where the customer is,
Gotcha.
and because it's not that skateboarding is newer here or anything. It's just that, you know, it's been around and a part of like my life for a long time. And I think that it's sort of, it's somewhat of a new introduction to a lot more people here. So it's like, how can I use that past experience to help inform what some of that design looks like with Li-Ning, and what, you know, some of the, because being in skateboarding for say 30 plus years, is you've seen the ups and downs and the cycles of it, and what's good and what hasn't been so good, and how to weigh those things out and take the best of them and be able to integrate them within Chinese skateboarding.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So I have another question for you. From designing your shoe, did you, because you had so many iconic shoes, right? And one representing basically each time period or your experiences up to that point. So did you try to, your America, you know, all the Supra shoes? And actually, Andrew has a great story about your America shoe.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, your signature model at that time has a two E put together.
Yeah.
Actually, that shape in Chinese named means king. Do you know that?
I became aware of that in the last few years. Yeah, that was and because I started doing some research into some of the symbols and stuff, and I was, yeah, which is really interesting. I thought that was kind of cool.
Cool.
That wasn't on purpose when you designed it.
No, not at all. I was designing it more from just just looking at it, going like, you know, I don't know. For years, I had always dreamed of being able to, like, you know, design my own shoe or have some kind of role in that. And then when I did it, I was kind of like, what could be on the side? And I think it was actually partly inspired by, you know, Mark Johnson having the M on the side of his. And I think that, you know, there was a few around that time that kind of had, I think, you know, Kareem Campbell had the KCK, and it was just the, you know, the K with the C in the middle. And I think the inspiration coming from that and going like, how can I make my initials into something that is cool like what they were doing? You know, because they were like the people I looked up to, and I was like, all right, so
for sure, good initials. Yeah, came out perfect.
Yeah, the two being the same makes it a little bit easier. You know,
I always wondered that with Red Dragon, if they knew if they just liked the symbol.
Yeah,
oh, right.
But
yeah, they just like the symbol.
They're just like that. That one looks cool. Take that one. Did you draw any inspiration or any from that, or was this kind of like, hey, let's start completely from scratch?
So that first meeting that we had back in December of 19, I brought in a few of my old shoes, and I brought in some of the shoes that I thought were, you know, currently at the time that I was, you know, that I liked, and when I met with the designers at the time, I sort of just handed it off to them, and I had less of a role in that than I did in previous shoes, which I actually appreciated that, because, you know, for me, sometimes I can get a little bit repetitious with the design, and I think that's what's really awesome for me, to be able to work with a team of designers at Li-Ning, which is really like, they're at a high level. So, you know, handing something off to them, it allows like me to sort of have a little bit of a role in that without me just kind of recycling a lot of the things that I've done in the past. And I think that's, you know, that's the beauty of a collaboration, is that when you can actually find people that are great at what they do, they can draw influences that I may never have seen, because I'm kind of in the picture, you know, like it's like me to see outside of that picture. I have to take a step out of it, and to work with people like that. So for that shoe in particular, I kind of gave some of these references of shoes that I had like looked up to for a long time, and gave some of my old designs. And when they sent some of the first, the first prototypes back, I was like, this is a different, you know, like my whole thing, even through my first America shoe, was that I didn't want to design just a traditional skate shoe. You know, like that shoe was partly inspired by a basketball shoe, partly inspired by a running shoe, even though it's a very simple, very like kind of almost rudimentary version of those. You know, like the color blocking is basketball, the running toe is obviously a running sneaker, but functional like a skateboard sneaker. And with this, I think that never having worked with an actual sportswear company to be able to produce at a level with the materials that they could use, it allowed me to go like, this is sort of what I've always wanted to be able to do, was to make a shoe that you could actually, looks like you could run and play tennis in, and perform, like, you know, you could do things in it, as well as it being functional to skate. So that was all them, you know, like with the information that I had provided.
Wow. That's Awesome. That's just like Chat GPT. You're like, here you go.
Yeah, well, it was like also, you do see a bit of reference from, from one of my Supras, maybe the fifth or sixth one. You see it sort of in the outsole, which is very basketball inspired. There's like what's an airbag window in there, which some takes, I guess, reference from my first shoe. And then there's a couple of things, the themes in there that you can sort of see. And then, yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was like, for me, I don't know, I love getting involved in design, but at the same time, I love working with people that are really good at it to where, I can go, all right, let's adjust this a little bit rather than start from scratch to it.
Mm-hmm. For sure. When was your first shoe from America?
2001.
That was 2001. Okay. I'm from San Diego, so I think.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I think you were there at the same time, right? Like you moved from Alaska to San Diego.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Alaska. I moved all around the country from like 12 or 13 until I was about, I guess, 14, 15. In between there, I lived in a few different places, but it landed in Phoenix.
Okay.
Tempe specifically, and then moved to San Diego when I was 18 after graduating high school. And that was kind of the mecca at that time, right? Remember, it was it was San Francisco and San Diego. LA was there, but it was like the girl in chocolate. And it was I think, it had all of its past, but I feel like San Diego and San Francisco were sort of the ones at that time.
For sure. That was definitely the hot spot. Well, I'm biased and I was so, I was just in high school and just soaking it in. So for me, it was like, that is the mecca. That is. Yeah.
So. Yeah. Because what years were you there?
So, I graduated 2001, and basically I've been there since I was a little kid.
Okay.
So for me, I remember that time, 2001, because that's when I graduated. But I'm also friends with like Ryan Bobier and stuff. And
yeah.
You guys were filming Throw of It All around that time, I think, right?
Yeah. That was. I guess I moved there in '96. So it was 96 to 98 that I was in San Diego and North County. North County, we moved up into that area.
Encinitas.
Yeah, Encinitas, Oceanside. And then just kept on migrating north. And then we went to, I think Orange County was right after that. We were in Huntington Beach for a while because I think at that time, at least in skateboarding, you almost just followed where the brands were, so San Diego was Tumyeto, and also it was Transworld, and a lot of the magazines were sort of based in San Diego, so it was easier to, if that's what your career or everything was, it's like you wanted to go out and shoot photos for interviews and things like that, and then you also wanted to go into the factory to be able to work on graphics and pick out some boards and whatever. And then the next was when Baker started, but it was a little bit before that we moved and met up with that whole crew. Our crew with Alyssa Steamer, Shane Heil, Scott Kopelman, this crew sort of merged with Andrew and Jim Greco and Brian Sumner and Alex Mole and a whole other kind of group of people, Ali Bilala. And so we all sort of converged at that time. And then about a year after that, I think we started Baker in 2000, maybe 2000 or 2001.
Okay. I just remember being in high school and Micah, I think was.
Micah Matson.
Yeah, Micah Matson. He had some of your shoes, and he gave a pair to my buddy. That was my first recollection. I was
way.
Yeah, I was like, oh, like what are those? Like, And my buddy, he's so proud. He's like, oh, these are the new Ellingtons. I was like, what? When are these going to drop? The samples or.
Oh, that's cool.
And he wore like size 9.
Yeah. Because Micah wrote for America. I remember that. Yeah.
But Micah's like size 11 or something like
that.
Yeah.
And so you had to, I did the same thing. So, and at that time, you just did whatever you did, right? Like you'd stuff some tissue in the toe. I remember I was probably 18 and Jamie Thomas's shoe was coming out and he had samples in a size 9 and I was in 11. Okay. Maybe I was 10 and a half at the time. But yeah, that was funny because I just jammed into the size 9s and skated them. There's a trick in the Welcome to Hell Friends section.
Okay.
I did, it's like for a real video nerd from that time, but 50-50 it's like a bridge shot. There's a rail and it's a flat rail with like these bolts in it. And I ollied up, grinded, and then ollied over the bolts to grind again. But I'm wearing those size 9s. And I was like, nowadays, how would you just stuff your foot into a size too small or too large?
I just take out the insoles.
Yeah. That was one. That was one size.
Yeah, cut the tongue straps.
Yeah.
But take
You
off
make
your
it work.
socks. Yeah, you find a way.
Yeah, it's new shoes. I mean, like you kind of have to make it work.
Yeah, that was the first time I saw it. I was just mind blown. And so
That's a cool place to grow up in, right? Like to have people like Micah and Ryan Bobier and all these other.
For sure. Everybody was there. Well, I mean, almost everybody.
Yeah.
But like you said, I think it was kind of that Mecca area, and a lot of other guys were there. I met Shani, and like Jason King, a couple other guys. I think Jeff Taylor. He ended up working for DC, and so when I worked for DC, first thing I did was use my company email, and I hit up Jeff Taylor, and I was like, "Hey, Jeff."
Nice.
Yeah, because
DC.com.
Yeah.
So many insane stories.
I mean, for a kid growing up in that neighborhood and then ended up working at DC, it's like a dream come true.
Absolutely dream come true. I mean, pros would move out of their house. That was the Steve Vera and where they filmed the running scene.
Oh yeah.
And they moved out of that house, and my buddy and I went there, and they were like, "Hey, you guys can have whatever's left. Like, go through the garage." And I was like, oh my God, this is heaven, right?
Dream, yeah.
So I think it was Jeff Taylor, maybe Kenny Anderson. They pull up. It was probably Jeff Taylor because Kenny's pretty shy, but he pulls up Steve Barrett's head and he's like, "You want this?"
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I didn't drive yet, and I was like, I'm looking at it. There's like a pile of boards, and I'm like, like used boards.
I'll take the boards.
I was like, I'll take the boards, right? So looking back on it, I'm like, man,
it would be really interesting to have that hanging here in the office.
Wow,
yeah.
I don't know what happened to that, but
those are two sweet guys. Jeff Taylor and Kenny are really nice.
Absolutely,
yeah,
nicest dudes.
Yeah,
So saw your shoes, saw Jamie's shoes, and I think I remember the samples you were talking about because he turned vegan later on, and then before that, some of his samples were leather. I remember from America's original shoe, right?
Yeah. I think the first couple models he had were canvas and some kind of synthetic leather or synthetic suede. But yeah, that was I think that was during that vegan time.
Okay,
I totally forgot about that. But yeah, canvas. Oh, he had a rubber toe, but still. Yeah.
That's vegan.
Yeah. But I mean, thinking about the functionality of like a canvas.
For sure.
Yeah.
Wow. A lot of history. So that's awesome. And then you moved.
So then we went to Huntington Beach, and for 2 years we were there, and we got really bored of that really quick. I mean, there was we were close to the Huntington Beach skate park at the time, and that was great place to go warm up, spend the entire day there, or you could go off and skate other spots that they had, and they had a lot of stuff around there. It was Ed Tippleton and Jeff Rowley, and so it was a really iconic, I think Tom Penny would show up sometimes, and that was, that was, I think, 1998 to 2001, somewhere around there. And we got bored of that, and me and Jay Strickland, one of the guys who helped start Baker, we took a trip up to Hollywood, I think, and we were like, we got to get out of Orange County, Huntington Beach area, for obvious reasons. And then we went up and we found 2 apartments, and one was for one crew and one was for the other, and we got those apartments, and then that was it.
Awesome.
Moved up there, and I'm glad we did.
Excuse me, does Li-Ning distributing your shoe in the US already?
We did a few releases for it when it came out in July 21, and I picked 5 skate shops, and I did distribution to Essence as well, one of the multi-brand retailers, and but I believe it was at Louisa Via Roma too, which is a retailer in Italy, and then maybe End Footwear in London or in England. But I picked 5 skate shops that I felt represented skateboarding and the brand, or at least would represent the brand in the right way. And so we do select releases when I can get the product.
Cool.
Are we ever going to see a Death Wish and Li-Ning collab?
Maybe. Yeah.
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
I think
Lee Hawk is looking at you.
We're looking for Lee Hawk's reaction on that one.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that's on the list of things that we have access to be able to do, and among other things where I think that you know, there's a certain amount, like, to be able to work with like a core skate brand, you know, the access to be able to do that, but then also to be able to work, you know, even outside of skateboarding into things that, you know, like, because I think that, you know, what's really cool about the difference between our upbringing and the way that, you know, the eras that we came from is that skateboarding was so insular. You know, it was so like if you weren't into this, or you tried to do something that was a little bit outside of that, you were almost outcasted in a way where you were maybe being a sellout, or you weren't true to what you were doing. People didn't like us growing up.
For sure.
You know, they didn't, and so it built a family of people who we kind of said fuck the world, you know, to other people that were outside of that. You're so emotional about something, and you really fight for it. Like, we had to really fight for it. And I think that, as you know, as the years have passed, and skateboarding as a whole has matured to a different level, where it's like it's not such a bad thing to be interested in other things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's more, I don't want to say it's more accepting of, you know, but it is. It's opened up a lot more.
It's opened up, yeah.
It's opened up for sure.
And it's opened up maybe in a good way, where it's like, you know, yeah, sure, you shouldn't get made fun of if you're doing something a little bit different, or sure, if you're interested in that. I think that's why we all started, was because of those reasons. And it's like, hey, we're doing something different, and like it kind of sucks being made fun of for that, but it helped develop who we were.
Absolutely.
And looking at somebody now that's, you know, like, say the current generation of skaters, you can have an array of different interests, but still have a love for skateboarding. In the same way that, you know, that skateboarding can exist in the Olympics and also exist in a raw, pure form as well, and still be those things being able to have lives. Because remember, when I first started skating, vert was just on its way out. And it was almost like overnight, it seemed like the old vert pro didn't have a place in skateboarding anymore. And it was like, okay, so I started at a generation where it was like in 1989, 1990, where it was like street skateboarding. That's what it was all about. I didn't think twice about it. There was maybe an old burned down vert ramp in Alaska. Nobody wanted it anymore, you know, because it just, you know, the 80s was all about vert, and then it transitioned into that. And then I think over the years, it's sort of, you know, morphed into different things where I think it's matured into a level now of where it's okay to be like this kind of skater or this kind of skater. You don't get made fun of showing up to the park just because you're skating the bowl or just because you're skating a ledge. It's opened up in a way of being a little bit more forgiving to those things. And I think that translates also into interests and things outside of that. So, you know, and I have 2 kids, and, you know, there's a lot of skaters at school now. It's like the thing to do. Those skaters are also playing other sports activities, doing other shit. Maybe skating is a passing fad for them, which is part of this like conversation of like, they didn't really have to fight for it, because in the early days, or something, at least my early days, you knew every single kid that skated.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
Yeah.
You know,
China, it's that part. I think Chinese skaters definitely did experience at that time. I came back, and this is pre-social media or even cell phones. I'd come back for summers. My parents basically, you know, bought me a plane ticket, and they're like, "Well, you can't get into that much trouble. You know what I mean? In China, it's pretty safe."
Yeah.
So I didn't know any skaters, and I was just riding the bus. So I'd go out and play and do whatever, you know. I bring my board, and I didn't see anybody, and I'm on the bus, and I'm like, wait, that ledge has wax.
Yeah. You camp out there and wait for who's skating it.
I actually did. I went there the first day, and it's hot, like summertime Shanghai hot.
Yeah.
And so I waited the whole day. Nobody came out in the daytime. I was like, oh, well, I know somebody's going to skate here. So maybe it's like a, you know, Thursday, so nobody's here. I'll go Friday. Like, somebody's got to be there.
Yeah.
So second day again, I go, and later I realized people came after work, because the skaters here, they because I'm a little bit younger, I was still in school for summer, but they are already working. So when they got exposed to skateboarding, they were already at, you know, working age. So that was kind of the first era of skaters. And so they came after work, and they saw me, and then they were like, I'm wearing, you know, cargos, or, you know, like whatever Stevie was wearing at the time, big army pants, the BDU camos, and they're like, who's this kid? And they'd never seen me before. They're like, who? And I'm super tan, and, you know, they're like, who's this kid? He must be some farmer's kid or something, like lost. And I was like, oh no, I skate.
Yeah.
My Chinese wasn't that good at the time, so they're like, no, you don't. You don't.
Right.
Brush me off, and I'm like, oh, you skate indies, and they're like, whoa, this kid does know.
Yeah, he knows what's up.
Yeah.
So I was bringing mags back, and they're like, "Oh my god, we found a treasure trove!" But that
Amazing.
feeling, that for sure. Those skaters, and obviously us too. We had to fight for it. They had to fight for it even much more. And Li-Ning from Zhengzhou, he even being further away from the bigger cities like Beijing or Guangzhou or Shanghai. So like materials would come from the States, or not so much Europe at the time, mainly from the States. Like suitcases were bringing them, in.
Yeah.
And people in Shanghai would get it about a year later. Somebody in Zhengzhou would get it after everybody made copies or something like that. So just it's weird to see it, even music and everything. But again, it was so much more impactful, an ad or something.
Oh, it meant so much.
Yeah,
I mean, just getting your hands on a physical magazine or a video at the time, like it was, still like you could still get that feeling, and you're like, okay, that's like instilled in you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you saw those two tapes, Feedback and The Starting Point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's back in 2001. I was still in the college. A friend of mine from Beijing gave me a Transworld magazine. Mm-hmm. I found the editor-in-chief's email on it. At that time, they still put their email on in the magazine. I sent an email to them, said I'm from China, I cannot get your magazine here, blah, blah. They asked me to give them address, and
really,
one or two.
They weren't like, "Oh, this is spam."
And one or 2 months later, one day in the afternoon, my roommate told me, "Hey, you got an international package." I was like, "What? I don't have any friends from US,
Yeah.
Then they sent me some magazines and two tapes. Amazing. Totally changed my life.
Yeah.
And then I started the skateboarding website in China.
Yeah. Have you ever reached out to Dave Swift since then?
Dave Swift.
Oh, I thought there was the email address or who you hit up.
It's a Joe Pantner. Okay, I have one more question.
Yes, sir.
Your next signature shoe, anything you can share or in your plan?
Well, there is a plan, and that was what the last 4 days in Beijing were, when we were working on that and some of the ideas for the apparel. And,
okay.
I'm actually one of the shoe designers, Lucas. He just met up with us in Zhangzhou, and he's coming out here to meet up with us as well, which is great because he's probably about your age. You guys are what, 35?
I'm 40.
You're 40?
I'm 43.
Okay, 43.
Yeah.
Asian.
Well, I was thinking, for some reason, when that came out, 2001, you were in college.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, that's not that long ago, but it's like 20 something years ago. But yeah, Lucas is, what do you think? Lucas is probably like close to 40? 35? Okay. So yeah, what's really cool about this is that we're actually going to spend some time together. Like he did grow up skating. He had my old America shoe, which is awesome. And his designs and the way that his brain works with design is something I respect. So it's going to be cool to be able to spend some time in Shanghai with them, cruise around the streets, and kind of go in to visit shops and get an idea, for both of us to kind of get an idea of where we both are. And then build from there. But the idea is for 2024 is to release 3 shoes.
Wow.
Yeah. As far as the specifics of the design, the three shoes would just be 3 totally different shoes from each other, and something in a different direction where this is. They'd be one is a little more of a technical style sneaker. And another being a little bit more retro inspired, even possibly from the original Ellington. Kind of some of the ideas and the blocking and the things like that. And then another one being a little bit more on the simple, something really easy and accessible. So.
Wow, 3 shoes and
I know. Yeah, I think, and we'll see if it happens, and we'll work as hard as we can to get there. And I think it'll be nice because to be able to work hard from now to create an actual range will be cool. It's something that I've never done before. Over the years, it's always been you work hard in one project, and there's a lot of other things going on. And I think with this, being able to just be involved at something of that scale, and then being able to kind of like spend time here, understand what the skaters are about, understand what the needs are, what the styles are, and things like that, and then being able to like put my stamp on some of that without me trying to like personally design something that I'm personally into, you know. So it's like, yeah, like I can wear a variety of different things, you know. Like I think that the days of you know, being 22 years old and going, this is the only thing I like, you know, and it's like, well, you know what, like design to me is about being able to recognize something, translate that, and being able to put my DNA into that, a little bit of the design and the things that I've done over the years, and I think that's.
Cherling shared lots of photos when you were in Zhengzhou.
Yeah,
you guys had it really fun. Had some good food there, right?
It was really good. Yeah, he took me to a few restaurants that his friend had, and the first night was some traditional Zhengzhou food, and it was there was a soup there. The translation I can't remember. Hui Min. That's what it was. Yeah,
noodle.
Yeah, it was see you again, right? That's the translation is.
Oh, Hui Mian.
Hui Min.
Hui.
Yes. See you later. See you next time.
See you next time. Yeah, basically
meet somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think Celine took me to eat that. Really? I've known him for 20 years.
This was the interesting thing that the owner of the restaurant told me. He's like, so if you come to Zhangzhou and you don't have this soup, you basically haven't come to Zhangzhou. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, like, whatever. Yeah, and I loved it too. You know, like I thought, awesome. I'm also like, I don't know, I'm past that stage of when you're younger and you're like kind of like, I don't want to try this, or like I'm open to explore things. And over the years, I've like gotten into certain things, and I'm like, bring it on, you know. Like
exactly.
I love being able to experience, like, you know, there was some things I was like a little bit questioning, and I was like, all right, cool, let's fuck with it, you know.
That sounds like a dare for next time he comes to Shanghai.
All right, I'm on. Yeah,
awesome.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And then last night we had same owner of the restaurant took us to a place he had, and we did hot pot.
Hot pot is the best.
Mine was extra spicy because Li-Hawk's been informing everybody that I like really spicy food. And I had the yogurt next to me, and I had like maybe 4 bottles of water along with it. Cool. But like, yeah, I dig it. It was good. And yeah, and then the signing went off, and Chengling is amazing. And yeah, he got a great crowd out, and the kids were stoked. And
yeah,
it was nice, man.
It's awesome. Li-Ning's super supportive about, flying you out, and then obviously like meeting up with the designer, and even if they miss something, instead of being like, oh, just do it over a call, or, you know, something, they flew the designer out to meet up with you again in Shanghai, you know, like.
I think it speaks volumes about who they are as a company. You know, it's like to be able to allow that freedom to be able to like give that process like the legs that it can have. You know, because I've experienced a lot of difficult situations at brands, and you know, and seeing friends and other people that I know that are, you know, and there's always going to be a difficult situation you'll be able to get through, but at the same time, to me, it shows a lot about the company is how that process works, and them, you know, giving the liberty and going like, you know, like, yeah, go out and check this out, you know, and because I don't think that's very common, you know, in any company in any country. Cool.
Anything else? And I think you need to shout out to Li-Hawk. Yeah, he's the man behind.
He is the man.
Putting all this together, that's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Cool.
The wizard Li-Hawk.
I think so. Is Li-Hawk like the T? Excuse me. Is he the TM, or is there a TM kind of role?
Yeah, I don't know if there's like the titles of that, but I think he's doing a little bit more than that. But because, you know, I think he helps take care of me and the riders back home, and then he helps, you know, with Chengling and Boss and people here. But also he's dealing with, you know, inside the company with, you know, a little bit more. So, yeah. And he's him and I brainstorm a lot on different marketing plans and things that we'd like to. So I think at the moment he's putting together a marketing plan for 2024. So yeah, he's definitely taken on a little more than the traditional TM.
Speaking of TMs, I know Jay Thorpe's over at Baker Boys, right? Mm-hmm. What's his role? He was TM.
Yeah, he's he also kind of like does, you know, he is TM, but I feel like it's, how would I say? emotional support as well. You know,
we need that role.
Yeah, yeah. He's definitely like the uncle. You know, for a lot of the kids. You know, like and even us, like mine and Andrew's age, because we're all about the same age. But Jay, interestingly, I don't know if you knew this, but he was from San Diego, North County.
I know.
We met when we were about 18 years old.
Okay.
And he used to come down to our house in San Diego, or we'd go up to North County and skate. And from then on, we've all been connected. So he's been around and a part of the scene. He was Alex Gall, remember Trainwreck?
Yeah, I remember Trainwreck.
They were best friends.
Okay.
Back in that time.
I knew him through a friend of mine. They were actually cousins, and
cousins of Jay or Trainwreck?
No, Jay.
Okay.
And my friend Tyrone, he's black. I've known him since 6th grade, and he was like, and so when we were skating, it was about 16 or something. I think we had cars, and he's like, "Hey, let's go to my cousin Jay's house." And I was like, "Okay," I just went along. I didn't know which Jay he was talking about, but I figured we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So we roll up somewhere in San Marcos, and he goes, "Yeah, go knock on the door." And he's like, "I got to get some for my car." And I'm like, "That is kind of weird." Like, Anyway, so there's like pots outside. I was like, this is looking like my house. This is a little bit Chinese, right? Like what? So anyway, so I knock on the door, and he's like, "Yeah, it's for Jay." And I'm like, "Is Jay here?" It's a little Asian lady comes out. She's like, "Oh yeah," and I was like, "Tyrone, this is your cousin. Is he black?" Like and so the little old lady's like, "Jay, your friend's here," or something like that.
Yeah.
So Jay Thorpe walks out, and I'm like,
Wait, what's going on?
I didn't know you were half Chinese. Like,
yeah.
It's crazy. And then so we went skating at Carlsbad Park or something. But yeah, that's the first time I met Jay, and so I just thought I'd share because I knew he was doing something over at Baker Boys.
Yeah. And he's like, to be in that role, you have to have respect. Or else people will, as a team manager, it's tough. It's a really tough role. But everybody respects him, and he's obviously he had one of the best styles in skateboarding. Like you skated with him, and then he's just he's got that kind of wisdom, where he when he offers advice, it's real, so that's why I was like, it's kind of a team manager / emotional support for everyone.
That makes sense. He's perfect for the role.
Yeah, and he's very level-headed. Everything he does is you don't see Jay fly off the handle.
No. And like you said, everything he says is valuable, but the way his delivery is too, it's just so nonchalant.
Yeah.
It's just like, you're like, well, that was really profound.
Right.
Like, whoa.
Yeah.
How do you come up with that? And it's experienced it, it's the respect that.
Anything else?
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for your time.
It was nice to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Maybe we'll go out and skate tomorrow or something if it's dry. It's pouring rain right now.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Li-Hawk.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you. It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. And this is Andrew.
This is Danny.
All right. This is Eric. We're out.
Bye. Peace.